Welcome to True Echo, where real stories echo louder than fiction. In today's gripping tale, a tech empire faces total collapse, but salvation doesn't come from the boardroom or the billion-dollar engineers. It comes from a quiet, unnoticed child. When an 8-year-old black boy, shadowed by poverty and dismissed by power, walks silently into chaos and calmly rewrites history, the entire company is forced to reckon with what genius really looks like, and who they've refused to see. Stay with us. This is the story of CEO panics when system crashes, then janitor's son steps in and shocks everyone. And it's one you won't forget. Jaden was always quiet, too quiet, some would say. But in the towering glass headquarters of Titan Tech, silence was a kind of survival. At just 8 years old, Jaden walked each morning alongside his mother Maria, a janitor for the powerful tech empire, slipping through service entrances and keeping his voice tucked in his chest. While other children solved arithmetic problems and traded stickers at recess, Jaden studied something else entirely. He observed the blinking servers humming beneath Titan Tech's polished floors. He lingered in the shadows of boardrooms, watching engineers tap lines of code into glowing terminals. He took notes, always notes. In a battered spiral-bound notebook, he diagrammed circuits, scribbled down snippets of overheard conversations, and mapped out ideas that seemed too complex for any child, or even most adults, to understand. No one at Titan Tech noticed the boy. Why would they? He wasn't on payroll. He didn't carry a badge. To them, he was invisible. But Jaden didn't mind. Invisibility gave him freedom. Freedom to listen. Freedom to learn. And, one day, it would give him the power to save them all. That day came without warning. The early morning hum of servers turned into a siren scream. Monitors across the 39th floor flickered, then went black. Alarms pulsed. Panic spread like wildfire. CEO Marcus Reed stood frozen in the company's central command room. For 2 decades, he had built Titan Tech into the backbone of America's cyber infrastructure. He had never faced a breach like this. He barked orders at his engineering team, demanded answers no one could provide. "What happened to the firewall?" he shouted. CTO Kevin Brooks replied with a grimace, "It's not just the firewall, sir. Everything's been bypassed. Like someone built the attack from inside." Every employee scrambled, but none had a solution. No one noticed the small boy sitting quietly just outside the glass wall of the command center, notebook open on his lap, eyes darting between the flashing monitors and frantic adults. No one saw Jaden begin to draw. He didn't understand everything, but he understood enough. The chaos wasn't random. It was designed. Planned. Someone had mapped this system out in such detail that they knew exactly how to dismantle it. And Jaden could see the pattern forming right in front of him. He watched as Kevin Brooks ordered yet another server reboot. Another failure. More red screens. Jaden's pencil moved faster. "Loop, socket overflow, redundancy flooding," he wrote. And then, after a pause, circled one phrase, "socket overflow loop." Suddenly, he knew. And just as suddenly, he broke the rule his mother had warned him about every day of his young life: don't speak up. Don't draw attention. He rose from the hallway bench and stepped into the command room. The room went silent when Jaden spoke. "Maybe it's a socket overflow loop," he said softly. A few heads turned, confused. Kevin Brooks blinked, then frowned. "What?" Jaden stood at the threshold of the command center, small and out of place in a room dominated by adult panic and authority. He clutched his notebook close to his chest. "The system's not crashing, it's looping. The authentication requests are flooding each other and locking everything up. Like it's choking itself." Frank, one of the senior engineers, let out a sharp scoff. "What is this? Career day for janitor kids?" Another engineer chuckled, trying to hide his nerves. "We don't have time for this. Marcus Reed turned, his sharp gaze fixing on the boy. His expression was unreadable: anger, confusion, suspicion. "Who are you?" Before Jayden could speak, another voice broke through. "Wait," said Elias Harper, a junior engineer near the back of the room. His tone was calm, but resolute. "What the kid's saying, it actually makes sense." Frank rolled his eyes. "You're siding with a child now?" Elias didn't flinch. He approached Jayden slowly, crouching so they were eye to eye. "Why do you think it's a socket overflow loop?" Jayden opened his notebook, flipping to a sketch of Titan Tech's internal architecture, surprisingly accurate, shockingly advanced. "The reboots. They're making it worse. It's not malware from outside. It's using your own security layers to loop back and flood the system." Elias glanced at the sketch. He inhaled deeply, then turned back to the engineers. "He's right. The packet flow logs are consistent with this. We're chasing an external attack, but the breach is recursive, it's coming from within." A stunned silence filled the room. Even Kevin Brooks faltered, his authority bruised by logic he couldn't deny. Marcus folded his arms, cold and skeptical. "And you want me to entrust our recovery to a child?" Elias looked up at him. "You said we were out of time. Out of options. This is our best lead." The CEO's jaw tightened. Then, with a clipped tone, he said, "You have 5 minutes. One mistake, and I'll have you all removed." Elias looked to Jayden. "Let's do it together." Jayden nodded. He approached the main console with trembling hands. A large keyboard loomed before him like a challenge. He typed slowly at first, bringing up the authentication logs. Within moments, red lines of code scrolled across the screen, thousands of duplicate login requests slamming into the system in real time. "There," Jayden said. "That's the loop." "By God," Kevin muttered. "He's right." But Jayden wasn't done. He pointed to a suspicious line of code embedded deep in the system's base layer. "That's not supposed to be there. It's hidden under a ghost admin account." Marcus stepped forward, his voice low. "Who created that account?" Jayden hesitated. "It uses a string that matches your private password." Marcus paled. "My, what?" "Your daughter's name. Amelia. And her birth date." A crack formed in Marcus Reed's carefully guarded facade. He stepped back, as if the accusation hit harder than he was prepared for. "Who knew about that password?" Elias asked. Kevin spoke up, slowly, uneasily. "Only a handful of people. And your assistant." "Lucas Bennett," Marcus whispered. For a moment, the room went utterly still. Then an engineer at the back said, "Lucas left the building an hour ago. Said he had a private meeting scheduled with investors." "No one cleared that with me," Marcus said. His voice was suddenly tight with dread. "He's running." Jayden didn't speak. He just kept typing. There was more. A second window popped up, a warning. "Emergency protocol engaged. Data wipe in 10 minutes. The room exploded into chaos. Marcus froze. Elias grabbed Jayden's shoulder. "Can you stop it?" Jayden's eyes were already scanning the code. "I think I can." The countdown had begun. 9:58. 9:57. Jayden's small hands flew over the keys. His breathing was shallow, his mind locked in hyperfocus. This was no longer about being seen, or proving his worth. This was about saving everything, from Titan Tech's data to his mother's job, to maybe even a piece of Marcus Reed's soul. Elias stood behind him, watching the code stream like water down a dam about to break. "Jayden, talk me through what you're doing." "I'm isolating the kill switch inside the loop," Jayden said quickly. "It's buried under a failsafe command labeled core/shut.all. Lucas knew what he was doing, he built redundancy inside the virus. Kevin Brooks hovered near Marcus, his voice barely above a whisper. This is insane. We're putting the future of the company in the hands of a janitor's kid. Marcus didn't answer. He just stared at the countdown. 9:11. 9:10. Jayden paused, reading a strange line in the code. He zoomed in and whispered, "There's a message." The screen displayed a line embedded in the core of the virus. "Every door has a key, Marcus. You just never cared to look." Elias exhaled. "He's not just attacking the company. He's attacking you personally." Marcus's face tightened, but he didn't argue. There was no room for denial anymore. "Lucas was my protégé," Marcus said quietly. "I dismissed his ideas. He kept asking to lead an innovation lab. I told him he wasn't ready. And now he's showing you just how ready he really was," Kevin muttered, not without bitterness. 8:33. Jayden scrolled down to another hidden block. A subroutine labeled Amelia_key. His eyes widened. "Wait," Jayden said. "This is it. The real failsafe." He hovered over the line of code, typed in a command to decrypt the hidden variable, and froze. "What's wrong?" Elias asked. "It's not working. It needs an authentication phrase." "What kind of phrase?" Marcus asked, stepping closer. Jayden thought for a second. "Not a system password. Something personal. Emotional." He didn't hide this with encryption, he hid it in plain sight, in something only someone who understood his pain would know. Marcus stiffened. Elias's voice lowered. "Lucas wanted you to understand. This was never about money or corporate sabotage. It was about being invisible. He's just like Jayden. You ignored them both." Marcus's jaw flexed, then dropped slightly open. "So what now?" Jayden typed again. This time, he added a message into the code prompt. "I understand you, Lucas. You're not alone. But destroying everything won't make them see you." A second passed. Then the screen blinked. Amelia_key accepted. The emergency wipe countdown stopped. The engineers broke into gasps. Some applauded. Others just slumped into their chairs in disbelief. Marcus staggered back, gripping the edge of a console. But Jayden wasn't smiling. Because something else had appeared. A second script, still running, slower, hidden deeper. Lucas had planted a ghost account, one that couldn't be stopped with just the Amelia key. The countdown was halted, but the spy door into Titan Tech's deepest systems was still wide open. Jayden looked up at Marcus. "It's not over," he said. He didn't just want to destroy Titan Tech. He wanted to own it from the inside. Marcus felt his throat close. Elias placed a steady hand on Jayden's shoulder. "We have to erase that hidden account. Otherwise, he can come back anytime. Then we'll need full access," Jayden said. "Every system. Every admin privilege." Kevin scoffed. "That would mean giving him clearance above the CTO level. He's 8. Elias turned on him. "And he's done more in 10 minutes than your entire team has in a week." Marcus stepped forward, staring at Jayden not as a child, but as something far more dangerous, and far more valuable. "What do you need, Jayden?" Jayden looked up, steady, calm. "Trust." The word hung in the air like a stone dropped into still water. "Trust." Marcus Reed inhaled slowly. Trust wasn't something he gave freely. Especially not after what Lucas Bennett had done. But the room around him, his empire, was only standing because this quiet boy dared to step in when everyone else was frozen. And Marcus knew what he had to do. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his personal biometric access ring, and handed it to Jayden. "Use this," Marcus said. "It overrides everything. The engineers gasped. Kevin Brooks looked like someone had punched him in the chest. You can't be serious, Kevin snapped. You're giving him root-level access. Elias stepped forward, cool and composed. You've had that access for years, Kevin, and what has it gotten us? Crisis. If you want Titan Tech to survive, we follow Jaden. The room held its breath as Jaden slipped the ring onto his finger. It barely fit, but when he pressed it to the biometric reader, the system lit up. Access granted, the computer voice said. Jaden's eyes narrowed in focus. He wasn't just a kid anymore. He was in the driver's seat of the most powerful tech infrastructure in the country. First, I'm isolating the ghost account, Jaden murmured. The screen displayed a labyrinth of code, rows of cascading access logs, hidden pathways, spoofed commands. Jaden typed like lightning. His fingers blurred. He buried it deep, under the maintenance scripts, he said. Smart. That way it looks like normal background processes. But he messed up one thing. What's that? Elias asked. He reused his structure, Jaden answered. Same variable tags he used when he created the socket overflow loop. Marcus blinked. So his ego betrayed him? Jaden nodded. Yeah. And I'm using it to find his core signature. Minutes passed. One by one, back doors began to close. Kevin, now fully silent, watched the command center screens change from red to green. Elias stood motionless, only his eyes moving. Finally, Jaden entered a final string of commands. The terminal beeped. A bright green message appeared. Unauthorized admin access, terminated. System integrity, restored. The room exploded in cheers. One engineer clapped. Then another. Then all of them. Some who had mocked Jaden now openly wiped their eyes. Others approached Marcus, stunned and speechless. But Jaden just sat there, breathing hard. Then he slowly turned to Marcus and said, "It's done. But you still have a bigger problem." Marcus froze. "What do you mean?" Jaden looked him in the eye, his voice gentle, but firm. You built a company that could be brought down not by money, not by hackers, but by someone who felt invisible. He let the word settle. Lucas tried to show you his value. And when you ignored him, he tried to destroy you. I know what that feels like. To be overlooked. Treated like you don't matter. I'm just lucky I had a mom who believed in me. Marcus's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. I'm not saying what Lucas did was okay, Jaden said. But if you don't start listening to the people no one listens to, this will happen again. With someone else. Maybe worse. The silence that followed was heavy with realization. Kevin lowered his head. Elias looked at Marcus, waiting. Then Marcus nodded slowly. You're right, Jaden. He turned to the room. We'll rebuild the company from the inside out. Not just the system, but the culture. We stop ignoring talent just because it comes from unexpected places. He turned back to Jaden. You just saved Titan Tech. And probably, you saved me. The boy said nothing, only smiled faintly. Elias leaned down beside him. How'd you know so much, anyway? Jaden looked up at him. Because I've been watching all of you. For years. The engineers stared in disbelief. For years. Elias echoed. Jaden nodded. While my mom cleaned floors, I sat in the corners of boardrooms. Server rooms. Conference halls. No one noticed me. That gave me time to study everything, how systems are designed, how people talk when they think no one's listening. Maria had always told him to be invisible. And for the most part, he had been. But that invisibility gave him access, silent, undetected access, to the heart of Titan Tech. He wasn't just some brilliant kid. He was a student of the system. And now, he had surpassed even the ones who built it. Marcus Reed looked down at Jayden, awe and shame fighting across his face. "Why didn't you speak up before?" Marcus asked. Jayden tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. "Would you have listened?" The question hit Marcus like a punch to the chest. He looked around at the room full of adults, engineers, executives, people who had spent days solving what Jayden unraveled in minutes. People who would have laughed at a child trying to explain a core system flaw. People who did laugh. Including him. He swallowed hard. "No," Marcus admitted. "I wouldn't have." Elias placed a hand on Jayden's shoulder. "But I'm glad you did today." Just then, a tech from the corner called out, "We've confirmed it. All data backups are intact. The breach has been fully reversed." The control room erupted in cheers again, but Marcus raised a hand. "Everyone," he said. "Quiet, please." The team fell silent as Marcus stepped forward, his voice more solemn than commanding. "Today, we were saved not by our CTO, or our senior engineers, or even myself. We were saved by a boy, an 8-year-old boy, who shouldn't have had to step in. We should have seen him. We should have encouraged him." He looked at Kevin Brooks. "We failed. And that ends today." Kevin shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Marcus turned back to Jayden. "I want to offer you something, Jayden. Something real. Not a certificate, not a thank you speech. I want to sponsor your education, bring you into our labs, not as a mascot, but as a researcher. I want you to break things. Build things. Teach us." Jayden's eyes widened. "For real?" Marcus smiled for the first time that day. Not the CEO's fake boardroom smile, but something warmer. Something human. "For real," Marcus said. "No more invisibility." Jayden looked down at his hands, still slightly trembling, and then up at his mother standing in the doorway. Maria had tears in her eyes. She hadn't heard every word, but she understood what had happened. Her son had been seen. Finally, truly seen. She stepped forward and hugged him tight, whispering, "I'm so proud of you, baby." Jayden closed his eyes, overwhelmed. And from the shadows, a slow clap began. Everyone turned. It was Elias. Then Kevin. Then the whole room. They applauded, not out of obligation, but out of genuine respect. In that moment, Jayden stood not as a janitor's son, not as a fluke hero, but as the future of Titan Tech. The next morning, Titan Tech felt different. There were no sirens, no blinking red alerts, no urgent calls flying across the 39th floor. Instead, a strange calm settled over the building, a quiet respect. Word of what had happened the day before had spread like wildfire. People whispered in elevators, past murmurs in hallways, "The janitor's son. An 8-year-old fixed the breach. He saved the whole company." In the heart of the building, the glass doors to the executive boardroom swung open, not for a billionaire investor, not for a political donor, but for Jayden. Wearing the same hoodie and sneakers as always, Jayden walked beside Elias and Maria as they were escorted into the lab Marcus had personally reopened that morning. The doors slid aside to reveal a massive space filled with cutting-edge tech, quantum processors, AI stacks, engineering models, robotics arrays. And in the center, a single desk with a nameplate that read, "Jayden, Independent Research Fellow, Titan Tech." The boy blinked in surprise. This is for me." Marcus smiled from across the room. "Every part of it." He gestured toward a tall display screen nearby, where code from the previous day's breach was still being analyzed. "We want you to have full access," Marcus continued. "This lab is yours. No limits. If you want to build a new kind of operating system or take apart our current infrastructure, you can. You've earned that right." Maria stared in disbelief, her hands trembling. "Mr. Reed, this is too much. No, Marcus interrupted gently. It's not enough. He turned to the engineers gathered along the wall. We nearly lost everything. Not just data or money, but the soul of this company. Jayden reminded us what we forgot: innovation doesn't wear suits. Genius doesn't ask permission. The crowd nodded slowly. Even Kevin Brooks, stubborn, critical Kevin, stepped forward. He extended his hand awkwardly to Jayden. I misjudged you, he said. I'm sorry. Jayden hesitated, then shook his hand. It's okay. People don't see what they don't expect. Kevin cracked a small smile. Well, I see you now. Elias stepped forward next, grinning. You still up for breaking a few more things, partner? Jayden laughed, eyes shining. Let's start with the AI assistant protocols. They're clunky. Everyone laughed, but with admiration, not mockery. Marcus glanced at Maria, who was still frozen in place, her eyes scanning the lab, overwhelmed by the transformation. He walked to her, voice quiet. Maria, I'm not just thanking you as Jayden's mother. I'm thanking you for everything. For years, you've cleaned this building, kept it running behind the scenes, just like your son. No one acknowledged you. He handed her a sealed envelope. She opened it slowly and gasped. Inside was a contract, a full scholarship to the best preparatory tech school in the state, with housing support, mentorship, and a family stipend. Her lips trembled. Why? Marcus looked toward Jayden, who was already scribbling new code on a whiteboard, surrounded by engineers twice his age. Because if we don't change the system, Marcus said, the system will keep missing people like him. Like you. Maria hugged him. Not as an employee. But as a mother who had finally seen the world open up to her son. At that very moment, across the city in a dim hotel room, Lucas Bennett stared at the same news feed on his laptop. His face wasn't angry anymore, just tired. Defeated. A video played, a clip of Jayden being cheered by the Titan Tech staff. A child celebrated not because of who he knew, but because of what he could do. Lucas whispered to himself, he saw me. He closed the laptop. Maybe it wasn't too late to begin again. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, painting Titan Tech's glass tower in amber light, Jayden sat alone in the research lab, the same boy, but not the same life. His notebook, once tattered and ignored, was now pinned to the center of a transparent desk, surrounded by the very systems he'd once only dared to sketch. He was no longer watching brilliance from the shadows. He was the brilliance everyone watched. Elias stepped into the lab, holding 2 sodas. Thought you could use a break, genius, he said with a smile. Jayden took the can with a quiet thank you. For a while, the two sat in companionable silence, listening to the quiet hum of servers. You know, Elias said eventually, some of the execs are still trying to figure out how you learned so much. I told them the truth, they just weren't looking in the right place. Jayden looked down. Sometimes people only see what they think should be smart. Not what is. Elias nodded. That's changing now. Because of you. Just then, the lab doors opened again. Marcus Reed entered, no suit, no tie, just a simple jacket and tired eyes. He walked over to Jayden and placed a small, neatly wrapped package on the desk. Jayden raised an eyebrow. What's this? Marcus hesitated. A promise I broke. A long time ago. Jayden unwrapped the box slowly. Inside was a photo, 2 young boys sitting in an old children's home, surrounded by wires and radio parts. One of them was a younger Marcus. The other was a boy with wide eyes, holding a broken circuit board. His name was Liam, Marcus said quietly. My best friend. We were both like you. But I left him behind when I made it out. I told myself I'd come back for him, that I'd never forget him. I lied. Jayden looked up. You didn't lie. You just forgot who you were. Marcus smiled, almost sadly. Yeah. Until you reminded me. He looked around the lab, the quiet symbol of something far bigger than technology. That's why I'm naming the new innovation grant after him. The Liam Foundation, for overlooked geniuses in forgotten places. You'll help lead it, if you want. Jaden nodded slowly. I'd like that. Marcus reached out, not with the formality of a CEO, but with the warmth of someone finally seeing clearly. They shook hands, not as boss and employee, or man and boy, but as equals. Later that week, Maria stood proudly as reporters snapped photos of her son standing on stage beside Marcus Reed, Elias Harper, and Titan Tech's board. News outlets called it a miracle. A fluke. A headline. But for those who had been in that control room, it was something far greater. It was justice. Recognition. Redemption. And for Jaden, it was only the beginning. Because in a world that almost refused to see him, he had stepped into the light and changed everything. Not with noise or force, but with quiet brilliance, courage, and compassion. In the end, it wasn't the engineers, the executives, or the billion-dollar systems that saved Titan Tech, it was an 8-year-old boy with a notebook and a mind no one cared to understand. Jaden didn't just restore a company, he restored a broken belief, that genius can come from anywhere, and sometimes, the quietest voice holds the greatest answer. As Marcus Reed learned, the people you overlook are often the ones who hold the key to everything. Or, as Jaden put it, people don't see what they don't expect. If you were Marcus, would you have trusted the boy? What hidden talents might we all be walking past each day? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe to True Echo so we can continue bringing you more inspiring, eye-opening stories that the world needs to hear. Until next time, don't just listen to the loudest voice. Listen to the one that dares to speak softly in a world too noisy to hear.